Merry Christmas. Today on the Ever Onward podcast, we have Tonn Petersen, who's our VP of Development here at Ahlquist. He is a great human being and a great friend. We wanted to have him on for several reasons, but I think you'll very much enjoy this episode with Tonn Petersen this Christmas week. And again, just Merry Christmas, everybody. Tonn, we're doing a full episode today.
Full episode. I'm excited. Thanks for having me back.
Well, we've done our little updates, but we were looking at our guest list. We're like, we got to have Tonn on.
This is great.
Yeah, it should be good. Man, kind of sentimental. We'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But I remember, I don't know. So you talk a little bit about your background, and then I'll talk about the first time you came in my office, and then it's been an awesome run here together. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride, Tommy. So just background-wise, so I graduated from law school and just had my heart and soul set on being a trial attorney. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.
What did you love about it?
I just love the adrenaline. I love I'll be honest with you, I love the arena feel of it.
Yeah.
You know, where you've got advocacy on both sides, and it's part of our.
It terrifies most people.
I think so. I think so.
Like, it terrifies. We've never even talked about this, but there was several years where I was helping the 80 County prosecutors as a expert witness,
Right.
in strangulation cases. So I would get trained up, and I was, I wasn't going in cold, and I was knowing what I was going in, and it was terrifying to me. Of all the things I've done in my life, like, I just sitting up there, and you're getting grilled by both sides, and just the theater of it all, and the formality of it all. Yep. It was terrifying. I can't imagine, like.
And for whatever reason, I gravitate to that.
You loved it.
But somehow at the core of our free society is this opportunity for people to come and have that engagement and interaction, right?
Well, and it's critical to America. Like, that is what it's all about. And not just here. You'll see depictions of trials in other countries, right, and how they handle it, and how we're different, and how the law works, and that part of it. And my gosh, there's Netflix series and movies and everything about it. I mean, this is the reason why there is people love the drama associated with this.
That's right. And they may or may not be realistic, but there's drama associated, right? That's what drew it to me. So I started out as a trial attorney, and I was with this firm in New Mexico where they put their new attorneys, they put them in the courtroom. And so I was doing trials 1 or 2 years out of law school, came here to Idaho with a big law firm, was just kind of thriving as a trial attorney, but I got burnt out. I mean, it's big. It's what you just described over years. Like, you identified as being normal, but it's probably not a normal way to living that intensely all the time.
It's high stakes all the time, right?
Every day.
And talk about, before we get off of it, because I've never asked you these questions, high stakes we've talked about, pressure high too, but a lot of prep, a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of grinding, even before the day of theater and the trial. I mean, it's just a lot of work.
Maybe, and not exaggerating at all, maybe hundreds of hours of preparation for 5 hours in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Right. So that it's a lot over time. And after, doing that for more than 15 years, just thought, man, I'm kind of need a break. And so then
you're wanting to get off this stuff. I'm digging deeper, and you're like, I'm going to get to that. No. So then I'll never forget. I knew you a little bit, but you came into our office, and you sat down, and you're like, hey, the first meeting, we like start just like high level, kind of shooting the breeze back and forth. And you're like, I think you need to hire me. I think that's exactly what you said, right?
It's exactly what I said.
And I said, Tonn, like, we try to avoid litigation. Like, why on God's green earth would we want you? And you're like, I think I'd be really good. And it was awesome. I don't know what happened that day, but like, it didn't take me long. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to hire this guy. Well, one, you're a smart guy, and two, understanding what you did and how you could be used in development. So that's been how many years ago now?
6. It was 6 years ago, I think, this weekend, that I came home and told my wife, hey, I just met with Tommy Ahlquist. I don't know how he's going to take that, because it was pretty bold. I was like, I think you should hire me.
Oh, it's been great, buddy. It's been great. So you've been running our development services, one of our partners here, and it's been great. We've done a lot of projects.
A lot. We're sitting in a building. We're sitting here.
Yeah.
I mean, you look out the window and you see what we built. And you just
You talk about baptism by fire, though. Remember? So you've only been like, because before when you started, we hadn't done Eagle View Landing, right? Eagle View Landing was just a field.
Yeah.
And there was the old farmstead here, the old maze. Everyone was mad about us.
Oh, yeah.
Matt, by the way, the Lowell family are amazing people, and their new place is so much better. I always remind people, like, everyone thought that was going to be the end of the world, and look at their new place up there.
Yeah.
It's way better. But funny story is, I said, hey, in order to get Top Golf through, we're going to have to go buy the subdivision next to it. So the backstory, there's always a backstory, was we wanted Top Golf so bad, and it was going to be hard. And they insisted on being right there on the freeway, face the way they could. Well, there's the sun and people, it had to be there. And the only problem with it is then that the nets would go right up to residences.
I mean, right on the back fence line.
So I'll never forget. I remember talking to you. I'm like, hey, I'm going to ask you to go take the lead on something. And listen, I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't do it myself. So when I did Portico, so where Buffalo Wild Wings is, that's where I went knocking doors, and I could write a book because it was brutal. The whole, it took, you talk about high stakes poker.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally could write a book trying to get all those houses under contract. And then once you get them under contract, you're not done. Then you got to figure out a way to close. And then the price is ratcheting up because all the neighbors are talking, and then they're conspiring against you. And then ultimately there's this pathway you get to where you're closing, and then they don't move out.
Right. That's the next thing.
You don't anticipate that. Like doing it the first time, you're like going into it and you're like, okay, if I can figure out a way to buy them all, and I can figure out a way to get them all under contract, then they'll move. They'll get their money, and they'll move because I mean, it's America. They don't have to sell.
Right.
They don't have to sell. But at some point, the price gets high enough, they say, okay, I'll sell. And then you think, okay, they're going to move.
Right.
They don't move. So it was a little bit of a setup because having lived through that myself,
I knew
exactly what you were up for.
Well, and the story's even better than that. If you remember it, I remember vividly. I mean, I think I was like 2 weeks on the job, and we met the Top Golf executives out there on site.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, hey, the only problem is this neighborhood, what's going to happen there? And I remember just total straight face. You said, oh, yeah, we're going to go buy those houses. That's not going to be a problem at all. So then they get on the plane and they go home, and you turn to me like, Tonn, you got to go buy those houses. We just committed to Top Golf to make it happen. So it worked out good.
Oh, wouldn't be the first time I've done that to somebody. Hey, no problem. We'll figure this out.
And you do every time.
So then we start buying up the houses. We only got the police called on us once.
Well, it was twice. You only got them called on you once, but it was twice. Yeah, but no arrests, and I mean, all's well that ends well. But those neighbors that were out there, at the end of the day, I mean, it was hard, and then once the first domino falls, they all start to fall. I saw one of them recently, and they're happy. You know what I mean?
No, I've run into a few of them, and they get paid way above market for their houses. A lot of them have lived there a long time, and it's always, listen, change is hard, and turning your residence you've been in for 20 plus years into, and it's a hard process to go through.
Yeah. And it never gets easier, but yeah, that's the joy of this partnership, and my small role in this is taking something like a dirt field and
because it's Christmas, let's tell the turkey story.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know if Pancho Romero sometimes listens to this. So one of our really good friends, Pancho Romero, owns Advanced Heating and Cooling, probably one of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Ever.
But every year, his Christmas gift to us is he has this lobster feast where he brings lobster and crab and he buys lunch for the whole office.
The full spread.
Full spread. So he picked a day that he was going to do that on, and it was the first year he did it. So we didn't know he was bringing in. We didn't know. He just kept saying, I'm going to bring in something really nice for lunch today. And I said, great, I'll tell everyone to be ready. So it's like the week before Christmas. And at the same time, there's some demo going on over here.
Right.
And the problem with the demo was you had a lady that was a little bit out there demoing the houses. And there was constant conflict because she was only supposed to demo the houses that she was supposed to demo,
Right.
but she was demoing everything, right? So then the other thing that happened was ultimately you had to there had to be some things done. So she stopped like taking stuff she couldn't take. And so she wanted to tell you thank you. So on the same day that we're all waiting for Poncho to show up with lunch, a delivery comes to the front desk, and it's a turkey.
And we're thinking it's Poncho's full spread,
We think
by
it's
the way.
Poncho's full
Yeah,
shred,
yeah.
and it's noon, and everyone's like standing around waiting, and so this turkey shows up, and we're like, it's a turkey. And wasn't it like deviled eggs?
It was deviled eggs who, I mean, bless her heart, but they must have been sitting out for like 5 or 6 days. And this turkey was like cold to the core. The difference between my relationships and yours, actually.
So I call Poncho, and I'm like, hey, buddy, like we got the whole office. Is this like, I'm sorry, but was this, and he's like, what are you talking about? Deviled eggs. I'm like, I don't want to act
Right.
grateful.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, and you know, they'll be okay.
We'll throw this thing in the microwave if we have to warm the turkey up.
Anyway, it's one of the great holidays.
Love it. Absolutely
We
love it.
always bring it up to Poncho every year. All right, so we've done some great things together. It's been great, and I really, really appreciate you. Well, I had a hearing this week on downtown.
Yeah.
You just taking so things are going well. I do want to, I know it's public out there, but one of the things I wanted to talk about is, so in the LDS church, there's lay ministry. So people get called to do different callings. Sometimes a bishop for 5 years, sometimes a stake president for 9 years.
Yeah.
You've done both of those things. And then a few weeks ago, you walked by my office and you looked nervous. I'm like, I wonder what's going on. I was on a call or something, and I saw you walk away, and then the next day you just like fling the door open, and you're like, I can't stand it anymore. You came and sat down, and you're like, they called me to be a mission president. So this is a big deal, right? It's a big deal. So talk a little bit about what that means for people that may not understand.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have, as you know, we have missionaries all around the world. I mean, in most countries now, and there's up to almost 80,000 missionaries. So they come from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. You have the opportunity to go and serve when you're a young man at the age of 18 and a young woman at your age of 19. And, you know, it means taking time off of school and work, kind of right at the time where most people are trying to gear up for life. You take a time away from all that to go and serve Jesus Christ and serve the people of the world. I know you served a mission when you were young. You served in Brazil.
I went to Brazil, southern Brazil, Curitiba, and it was it's just the greatest experience of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, just flat down. You go from being 19. At the time, I was playing college basketball.
Right.
I had a mullet, had an old Camaro.
Wish I could see the mullet, but
Life was good. And then you go to Brazil and spend 2 years. It changes you. It can't help but change you. And it's service oriented. It's an amazing experience for me. Where did you go?
so yeah, I served in the Dominican Republic. Same thing, you know, and I was living in a third world, you know, conditions. And yeah, so that's what these 19-year-old, they do. They go out and serve for 2 years. So they get assigned to a mission anywhere around the world. And then each of those missions, you know, has a couple who are the mission leaders who just oversee them and help them and just try to teach them and you know, encourage them. Probably a lot of, you know, homesickness and things like that can occur. And so my wife Jamie and I were asked to be mission leaders to help oversee one of those missions. And it's super humbling and it's unexpected, and it's just, you know, it's all about those young people and what they're giving up at a time in their life that's hard.
Well, and you know, you can ask most people who serve that mission president and their you know, wives, their spouses that go, they become like family.
Yeah.
And mentors and lifelong mentors, and the bond that develops because you are. I mean, I remember like, I remember laying on my first place. I was laying like mattresses on floors, right? Dirt floors. And it just was different, right? Because we're so blessed here. I mean, you grew up in this country, and no matter where you come from, you're compared to a third world country where a lot of these missionaries go. It's an eye-opening thing of just, oh my goodness, this is different. And you're homesick, you're spoiled, and it's new, and that president, and for me it was President Swenson and Sister Swenson. They become like, they're the rock. That's who you go to. That's who has that connection with you. And I actually get pretty emotional when I think about how close I became to my president and what he still means in my life. Big deal.
Yeah, I feel the same way about my mission president. His name was David R. Stone. He's passed away, but he became, not just a mentor during those 2 years, but for my whole life. I mean, he got to know my kids. I will forever remember a day. So I was in the Dominican Republic, and my companion and I we got arrested because we didn't do anything wrong, but we were driving in this truck in this just little tiny village, right? I mean, there's no traffic laws. It's kind of fend for yourself, every man for himself. We were making a right-hand turn, and this gentleman on a motorcycle, it was like a delivery guy or something, he came on the right-hand side just flying. So as we took the right-hand turn, he tried to pass us on the right. We didn't hit him. He hit us. He hit the side of our truck and went flying over. Road rash everywhere. I mean, we're looking at this guy. We need an ER doctor, but there's not one in the town. And we're looking at this guy, and he's totally torn up. So we did the good Christian thing to do. We pick him up. We put him in the back of the truck, and we take him to the hospital, carry this guy in. We've literally got his blood all over us, and we come out kind of thinking, hey, we did a good deed today. Yeah. This was awesome. And the cops are waiting there, and they take us away, right, to kind of shake us down. So we're sitting in jail all day long, and my companion's new, and he's like, what are we going to do? And I just told him, our mission president's going to come. He's going to come for us eventually, because there were some other missionaries there, and they saw what happened, and they went and called him. And we were probably in there for 5, 6, 7 hours. I can't remember, but I will forever remember when I heard out in that front entrance the booming voice of my mission president who had come to get me. And I just, he came to help me in so many ways, just not that way that day. But yeah, I'm the same way. I almost get emotional. I think about the impact that dear, dear man had in my life.
Makes me think of one other story. And I've talked about him on this podcast before, but my grandpa was the guy for me. The guy. I grew up right next to him, and he was the guy. Everyone, not just for me. He was one of those guys that when he talked to you, you didn't hear words, you felt words. I don't know. I still don't know. He's just legendary for being the guy that just everyone loved, and he made a difference in everyone's life. He was just an incredible human. I'm just so blessed that he was my grandpa. And then there was one other bond. My uncle, his youngest son, was a year younger than me. So I grew up right next to him. So he almost was like my second father too, because my uncle, so we're best friends, and there's my grandpa. And then another layer to it is when we were kids, we had this crazy idea. We wanted to get every single merit badge.
I heard about that, actually.
So we went and told my grandpa, I'll never forget, we went and told him together, and he looks right at us, and he's like, let's do this. Go get the book. Let's do this. And we sit down, and for the next 3 years, the three of us, my grandpa and my uncle Josh and I, we do everything. We raise bees. We go to the railroads. We learn how to sell. It's a lot, right? We learn how to trumpet, the bugling merit badge. But anyway, we were very, very close. Very close. My hero, my everything, man. Just everything. So I'm down in Brazil, and you don't remember, but you didn't talk to, there's no phone calls, there's letters.
That's right.
And letters would take weeks.
Yeah.
So you would sometimes get them and sometimes not. You would send a letter, but you just don't know when you're going to get letters. And I remember when my mission president on a Saturday morning, President Swenson, knocked on the door really early, about 6 o'clock. And I answer the door, and he says, hey, come with me. I got to talk to you. Walk out. And that drive, I've told him this in letter before, but how he handled that. My grandpa passed away, went in for surgery and didn't make it. And my mission president came and told me. And that bond, that moment and that experience was just probably one of the most spiritual experiences of my life. It was devastating for me because it was not anywhere on my radar. And the way that works is you don't go home. You don't, that's it. It was a, hey, this happened. And boy, anyway, I love my mission president for so many reasons, but that's the one thing that the comfort I got from that guy was unbelievable. And he just said everything right. The stuff he said, I wrote down. I still go back and read it sometimes. I wrote in my journal that night the things he told me. And anyway, you're going to be a mission president.
Here we are telling stories about these men who impacted our lives, 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
It's super humbling to think that, we've been asked to do that. But it's all about those young men, those young women. They are, in today's world, when there's so much that they could be doing, to give up that time, they're courageous and it's just so noble.
Hey, I've never been through this so personally with somebody, but it's been a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I'm out of here. So what happens is you take your kids, you still have 3 kids at home.
Right.
You have adult kids, you have grandbaby, but then you'll find out in a few weeks where you go.
Right.
And it could be, I've told you, if it's somewhere cool, I'm coming to visit you.
And I've told you if it's somewhere not cool, you're got to come visit me.
Shannon and I last night were talking about, we're like, gosh, where do you think it's going to be? We might visit you more than once if it's somewhere cool, but you'll know. You speak Spanish because of the Dominican Republic. You speak fluent Spanish, so maybe somewhere that, anyway, we're excited. But then you sell your house?
Yeah, we'll sell our house and put our things in storage and just, and for the grace of God and the goodness of Tommy Ahlquist, I'll come back here, but we just walk away.
Well, that was never a question. That you'll come back here if you still want to do that when you're done.
Yeah.
But it's it's just, I know you don't want to dwell on this because you're that kind of guy, but what a you're 48.
Yeah, 48 years old.
You could argue prime of your professional life, grandkid, kids still at home, and you're going to just drop it all and go somewhere for 3 years. You and Jamie. I saw her last night at the Christmas party for the first time, and what a trooper. She's just like,
Oh yeah. I'll follow her anywhere. By the way, that's the real story. Is that, I'll follow her. But yeah, I mean, we literally will just sell our house and put things in storage, and our kids are excited, but they're leaving friends, and that'll be an adjustment for them, and we go.
Man, it's pretty humbling, man. Well, two things that have dominated my thoughts since you've told me. One is, I wasn't going to get emotional. I remember when my son went on his mission. And for me, when I went, I didn't, you're going and, hey, you love your mission president. But when you send your kid out, my son went to Finland.
Yeah.
I just prayed so hard. I thought, oh, please let him get a great mission president that's going to take care of him and love him and connect with him. And Todd, I can't even, you're going to be so great. For those parents out there around the world that are sending their kids somewhere, for you to be the one you and Jamie to be the ones receiving them on the other end, you're going to be awesome. It's going to be, I'm so happy for you. It's going to be such a great experience for them. And that's one thought. And then the second thought is how deep your conviction and your faith is to be able to just say, yeah, I'm going. Because it's an interview. You didn't get time to think about this, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's true, but you do think about it your whole life, right? I mean, you have commitment and conviction, or you don't. And so in those moments when they actually do come, the answer is pretty easy, right? Whatever you're asked to do, and we're asked to do different things at different times, whether it's support a spouse who's going through cancer, or whatever it might be. You put your money where your mouth is when it comes to your faith in those moments, and your whole life is being built up to those moments. And you do know me. I mean, it's super. It's uncomfortable to talk about it in terms of me, but I do think that all of us have that opportunity to prepare ourselves for things that are going to be unexpected to happen, And when they happen, your faith drives those decisions and makes it pretty easy. I'm and you know this about me. Some of us like you, Dr. Ahlquist, are born into this world with like just natural gifts and abilities and talents, and then some of us we just get by in what we get by, and I just, I'm the most ordinary and plain person on the planet, and but you just, you follow your faith.
I love what you just said, because whether it's an opportunity to drop everything and go to Ecuador, wherever it's going to be, or, which is a good thing, it's a sacrifice, or whether they're trials that just smack you. Like,
Right.
I've got a couple of friends going through things right now that are just brutal. Like things you just think, how on earth are they going to get through this kind of thing? How important is faith?
It's everything. I mean, it's everything. When you boil down, I mean, you think about your life experience. For me, you boil it down, and our faith is, belief in things that are hoped for but not seen, right? And we don't know what's going to happen, good or bad. I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen. And this happened in my life 2 weeks ago. It was very unexpected, but people go through unexpected things all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And if your faith is secure and you're on that foundation of faith, then whatever it is, you can face it. And whatever the answer is to that question, that dilemma, it's there ready for you because you've already decided.
I think our episode gets released Christmas week.
Oh, great.
Let's dig into that a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking, we got to get him on this podcast, but at some point, I've got a good friend named Caleb Roop who owns a company here called Pacific Companies.
Right.
He's a great guy. And I went to lunch with him a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't seen him for a while. It's probably been a few months since I've seen him. And what I love about him is he is deep in his Christian faith, very, very deep. And the second we sat down, I said, buddy, it's been a while. How you been? And he like started off by saying, I'm good, man. I believe in Jesus Christ, and he's my savior. And he's like, I just love the fact that I can pray to him and have it be the foundation and focal point of my life, and that my kids are there. And he just went right to faith and family, like moment one, second one from this time we sat down at lunch. And we had a great lunch together. But when I walked away that day, I thought, gosh, that was so refreshing and awesome. So dang refreshing and awesome. And we talked in that meeting or that lunch we had of just how important that is to us and the world. And then one other quick story I wanted to tell you. Mark Bottles, who is someone else we got to get.
Right. Yeah.
I've known Mark for 25 years. One of the best people who quietly Christian service and just amazing. Like, he just is such a great example of that to me. And I know his family, but he puts his faith in Jesus Christ above anything. And he it's not lip service. It's quietly doing wonderful things. And so a couple weeks ago, he calls me. He says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "No, nothing. What are you doing?" He's like, "You got to meet this guy." And I said, "Great." I said, "Come on in." So he came in with his wife and this guy, Dr. Les Parrott. He's super famous. He's a serial entrepreneur, eHarmony guy. He's written 30 books. Wow. And he comes in and sits down with me, and we have this amazing connection. And they're there because I didn't even know this, but marriage divorce rates, Idaho's got one of the worst ones per capita, and just there's a lot of strains on things. And their theory is like, hey, if we can get more faith back into life and just, have this foundational beliefs in things that matter. Anyway, it was this wonderful, wonderful meeting, and Les was this incredible. I can't wait to be with him again because he was so inspiring. But he sent me a book last week that I read, but it's called Love Like That, 5 Relationship Secrets from Jesus. And I was thinking about this book all week because it just goes through and talks about the importance of the way we love, the way we center our lives on Jesus Christ, and the way what it happens. But anyway, I love this time of year because of that.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. It really brings that back to its core. As you were sharing those stories, it reminded me. I mean, this epitomizes what you're talking about. Where I had a good friend, really good friend, and a teacher actually when I was at Utah State University, and he was a man of great faith, and his name is Brent Cottle, and he had this saying. You'd go in and every day you'd walk into class or leave class, and you'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" He'd say, "I'm cheerful, thank you." It was his tagline, right? "I'm cheerful, thank you." And just, through the years taking the classes from him, you just got used to it because he's just a smiling guy and always happy. And, "How you doing?" "Cheerful, thank you." Well, one of my last semesters, I took a class from him, and I knew that his wife had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was, she wasn't going to survive. And I just had so much respect for this man, right? And I remember walking into his office, and he meant a lot to me. And so it wasn't during class, and I walked in, and when I saw in the door, it was kind of cracked open a little bit, and he was sitting there, and he thought he was having a private moment, and he had his glasses off, and he was wiping away tears. And I kind of tried to step away because I thought, I'm not going to interrupt him now. And he saw me, and so he stood up and he wiped away his tears and still was pretty emotional. And I said, "How you doing?" And he said, "Cheerful, thank you." And he truly was cheerful, because whether through good or bad, right, something you said sparked that in me. Like, we can still feel like cheerful and be thankful for the experience that we're having in life because of our foundation, where our hearts are at. And that always stuck with me. And I try to be more like that. I'm not always cheerful, thank you guy. So
as you're talking, I was just thinking, I'm going to pull this up. It's so nice to have, like, at those moments. There are moments we all have.
100%.
Every one of us.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had a moment this week, then watch out, because it's coming around the corner. But just with life and relationships and kids and families and friends, and it's going to be hard. And this time of year.
Yeah, especially.
This time of year, we are so blessed, and this is a hard time for a lot of people, for lots of reasons. It's just, there's a lot of trials that come your way, and this time of year, for whatever reason, emotions are a little higher. And I think, it's time to look around. It's a time to find ways to serve in different ways. But it's also, I think, I love celebrating Christmas because it is about Christ and the hope that he brings. And I think about my lowest times, and those times where there is nothing, there's nowhere else to turn. There's nowhere else.
Yeah.
And the hope that in having a Savior and Redeemer brings to you, and you can say, "Hey, I can put it there, or I can't put it anywhere else." Makes me think of it's been a long time since I've read this, but there's a poem that I love because I think it captures precisely that hope. And for me, that's Jesus Christ. It's like when everything else is gone, there's that. And people need to hear that right now. I mean, how many people do you know that, like, that's the thing they can turn to, and they find solace and they find some comfort? Anyway, I'm gonna read this to you. It's by Emily Dickinson, which she's one of my favorites, but it says, "Hope is that thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Sweetest in the gale it's heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash that little bird that keeps so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity has it asked a crumb of me." And for me, that's Jesus Christ. I mean, that's all about giving and being there and hope. And I just, that's a message this week, as Christmas is here for people to look for that.
Yeah, and especially, I love that. If you could send that to me afterwards, that's powerful, because it, this is, I guess this podcast is going to be, released Christmas week, and you take everything else away that life has to offer, and it can really be boiled down to that hope that no matter what you're going through, through Him, like, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Like, it's going to be okay. Yeah. And it's powerful to think about.
And I think when life's biggest challenges come, and they come, that point where you realize that is powerful for people, and it's a place to turn. It's awesome. One other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is service this time of year.
Yeah.
Actually, I almost forgot this, but you've been very involved with the giving machines, and tell us a little bit about them.
The giving machines are fantastic. They're, for those that aren't as familiar with them, there are giving machines. There are 106 different giving machines through 13 different countries. It might be 16 different countries. And for the first time this year, they're here in the Treasure Valley. So these, literally look like vending machines. There are 3 of them. They started out in Boise in the plaza. Then they moved for 2 weeks, these same 3 giving machines, to Indian Creek Plaza in Caldwell. And during the Christmas week through the New Year, they'll be at the Village in Meridian. And as opposed to going and buying candy or pop or soda, you can buy something to help somebody else. You can give something. So there are 5 local charities that are hosted in these giving machines, and 2 international charities. It's Genesis Health, Local Refugee Support, Boise Rescue Mission, Idaho Youth Ranch, the Women's and Children's Alliance, and then the international ones are Water Aid and Church World Service. So 100% of your donation is given to these charities. So again, instead of going to buy a Snickers, you can go and buy clean water for a family. You can buy school supplies for refugee children. You can buy a much needed medical exam for an elderly person. You can buy a hot meal for a homeless gentleman. You can choose what you want to give, and you can purchase that thing, and then 100% of those proceeds go to that thing that you selected. So, it goes along with the theme that you've been talking about this whole time here today, is that at a time in the Christmas season when the focus is so much on what I'm going to get, what I'm going to receive, how many presents we're going to have, you can take just a few moments and in a convenient, super accessible, super affordable way, you can stop and you can go to a giving machine and you can give to someone else. And I've seen with my own eyes, Tommy, and it's been remarkable. I'm at these giving machines, and it's not an infrequent experience where someone will have a little bit of emotion. And when they think about, I'm actually going to give to someone else and help lift them and love them in a way that's profound and yet simple at the same time. It's a brilliant concept.
And those organizations you mentioned too, let's just give a shout out. It's like year-round, nonstop. I think of the leadership of the ones you just rattled off. Yeah. We live in just an amazing community.
Incredible.
Just I think of the leaders of the organizations and then all of their staff and support services and how they reach out to this community. And clearly, we've been here a long, long, long time.
Right.
But we got friends in other places. I think it's pretty unique here. There's a couple things that I think are unique. I think one, that there's so many just amazing organizations that help those people that are in the greatest need, the safety net organizations. And then 2, there's a lot of interfaith connectivity here.
It's incredible.
There's some legacy from that. Mayor Tammy was a big part of that. I know in Meridian, but there just seems to be so much camaraderie and common good amongst religions here. And I know you've been part of that, not just Christian religions.
Right. Yeah. In our, whatever faith it is, people of faith, there is something in this community that draws them together. Reshma Kamal of the Muslim community, she's a wonderful soul who is doing incredible things in this community. I can't wait to introduce you to her. But you're right, this interfaith collaboration where if you really look at it, it's not just a catchphrase. There is truly more that unites us than there is that divides us. And at Christmas time, that is exemplified so powerfully and intimately and palpably. And you see that at the giving machines. It doesn't matter what faith you are from or none at all. You can go and you can make someone's day better by giving just a little bit of money and giving a little bit of your time. It's neat just to go. As maybe dorky as it sounds, we'll go as a family and just sit near the giving machines and just watch. It brings out the spirit of Christmas.
So if someone hasn't heard of this, the week we release this, so the week of Christmas, they'll be at the Village?
The Village, yep, right there by the ice skating rink, right in the heart of everything. There'll be pretty long lines. It's a really popular thing for families.
Yeah. I know my little almost 5-year-old grandson went to them when they were downtown Boise and called me, Papa, told me all about it.
Yeah.
Told me all about it, how awesome it was, and what a cool tradition to have here. As I'm sitting here thinking, and again, I'm going to give him a little shout out today, but Les, this guy is incredible. But one of the quotes at the end of his book that I just finished, that I think is really good. So it's the last paragraph. He said, "The bottom line, loving like Jesus isn't achieved as much as is received. The instant I realized that I cannot love at the highest levels without him loving through me, I received what's needed. Like turning water into wine, God turned my best efforts, which are too often fall short, into something better than I could have ever done on my own."
Wow.
That's how you love like Jesus. I think combining faith in Jesus and all those things with giving and with doing better than we can do on our own, it's powerful, man. It's just really, really powerful.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I maybe I can share just a quick story.
Yeah.
When I was a boy, I mean, what you just read brought back an experience I promise I haven't thought about in 20 years. And I actually haven't. But I grew up as a young boy in Jackson Hole, and then my family moved to Boulder, Colorado, and so by the way, you could live in worse places than I did growing up. But we weren't in poverty or anything, but we had modest means, and you might think, well, growing up in Jackson Hole, that must not have been it wasn't what it is now. Man, it was 40 years ago, right? We had modest means, but I remember there was a family that moved in. We lived outside of Jackson, this little town called Wilson. And there's this family that moved in, and they had nothing. I can't remember their last name, but the dad's name was Joe. And they actually lived in a trailer, not like a single-wide trailer, but like an RV trailer. And they had a couple kids, and for whatever reason, I remember this, where during Christmas time, it might have been the week of Christmas, my family's like, hey, my dad's like, hey, get in the car. We're going to go give Christmas to these family, with a tree and some ham. And kids, like, pick out some toys that you want to give to them. And of course, I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I picked out like my junk, like all my broken junk, and I put it in a box. And I was kind of begrudgingly like, whatever, and pretty mad about it. And this comes back to my mind, Tommy. We drove down there, and we pulled up off the road and start driving through this field to their trailer. And as a 9-year-old, I was like, turn the car around. Like I remember having tears, like, turn the car around. And it was just such a beautiful Christmas experience where you felt that giving spirit. And we went, and I dumped out that box of junk, and I put my very best things in there. I mean, my very best stuff. And for a 9-year-old kid, I mean, wasn't that much. But when I went and gave that to them, I felt something that like stirred in my heart then, and I keep with me now. That's, when you read those words, that's a great book, and I can't wait to read it. But that sort of embodies the spirit of Christmas, which can and should last all year long.
Yeah. Let's end on that. That was awesome. I love you, brother. Thanks for your example. Thanks for what you do for us, but what you do for the community, how you lead. It's been great. We're going to miss you. I'm not going to get sad yet because you're still here for a few more months, but I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you and what you do.
Well, I appreciate you too, Tommy. And before we sign off, I mean, you've been such an example and a light to me. And we're told, in the New Testament that our alms should be done in secret. So I'm not gonna ruin that for you here. But I know that you serve as anonymously as anyone I know, and you mean a lot to this community. So thank you.
Love you, brother. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks.